Hey everybody, welcome to the Pre-Snap Podcast presented by LineStar. I'm Shannon Sommerville here with Tyler Wiemann for our last preview for training camp gets started. We're taking a look at the AFC South. If you haven't already, check out the other previews that we've done on YouTube, and it's also available in podcast form as well. Gives you a great run through of the futures, but also, what's gone on this offseason, and look at some fantasy players that could impact, your draft coming up.
What we like, what we don't like, different storylines. So.
Exactly. So that's where we're headed for today's AFC South preview. We will start from worst to first from last year. And first things first, though, be sure to like and subscribe to the LineStar channel right now. Give us a comment below. Who do you think is going to win the AFC South? Also, we've got football season right around the corner. So if you haven't already, make sure to lock in your LineStar subscription. LineStar will help you out tremendously in fantasy football. And also if you're placing prop bets as well, all the analytics in one place. $19.99 if you get it right now. During football season, that price goes up by $10. So it's still a reasonable price, but we want you to save $10 a month. So sign up now. The link is below. And lastly, you got to check out the best ball contest. Tyler did a best ball draft recently, so you should too. We got the link to Underdog's best ball draft below. You could win millions in prizes. It's really fun. And best ball is a great way to also practice for your upcoming season-long fantasy as well. So how was your best ball? Did you enjoy it?
I did. I like best ball. It's fun. It's... you don't really have to do much during the season. It's the best part, which is drafting your team and have a chance to win a lot of money. So I'm in.
All right. So let's get into the AFC South, and we'll start with the Jacksonville Jaguars. Last season was kind of a train wreck, 3-14. And of course, Urban Meyer is out. They showed him the door after a lot of controversy and just a lot of distractions basically for the Jaguars. And it was also Trevor Lawrence's first season, so there was a lot of turmoil in Jacksonville. So welcome in Doug Peterson. Of course, he coached the Eagles from 2016 to 2020. Offensive coordinator is going to be Press Taylor. He worked under Frank Reich. And defensive coordinator Mike Caldwell. Some new additions to the Jags are going to be wide receiver Christian Kirk, who came over from the Cards, signed a 4-year, $72 million contract, 37 guaranteed, makes him the 10th highest paid receiver, which is interesting. Wide receiver Zay Jones and tight end Evan Ingram also joined the Jags. But let's start off with your quarterback here, Trevor Lawrence, the overall number one pick from 2021. Did not have a good season. I did mention the Urban Meyer turmoil there in Jacksonville. Certainly did not help Lawrence's cause.
No, absolutely did not. And, I mean, frankly, I think Urban Meyer just totally ruined his rookie season. Yeah.
So taking a look at some of his numbers, passing grade ranked 36th out of 44. Yards per attempt ranked 40th. But when you take all that into consideration, it's kind of an interesting situation to evaluate Trevor Lawrence because he had Urban Meyer. They had a lot of injuries last season and not a great receiving group. The NFL's single worst catch rate on catchable targets. And that wasn't helping him out at all. And the O-line ranked 24th. So how do you see Trevor Lawrence's performance, and then how do you kind of evaluate him moving forward?
I do not mind his performance. One thing, if you take a look at his rookie season, he had a 71.9 passer rating, 3,641 yards, 12 touchdowns, 17 interceptions in 17 games. If you take a look at Peyton Manning's rookie season, 71.2 passer rating, so slightly worse than Trevor Lawrence. 3,739 yards, 26 touchdowns, 28 interceptions in 16 games. So, obviously, Lawrence didn't have the touchdown numbers. His interceptions were a little bit lower, but overall, the passer rating was similar.
Yeah.
Yards similar. I
think
he's fine.
Yeah.
And, I wouldn't take I wouldn't take anything away from him for that performance.
Yeah, I know it, and I think we expect a lot out of sometimes these rookie quarterbacks who come in, and because there have been some that have been performing at this elite level that's just not really practical when you think about they're stepping into new team, new coaching, new play system,
And like Peyton Manning, he came into a team that was bad.
Right.
So you got to turn that around. The touchdown numbers is a little worrying to me, but I think he's going to be okay.
Well, let's talk about the running back situation for the Jags now. And Travis Etienne, RB16 is what he's projected as. James Robinson is RB50, and then you've got Snoop Connor. So Etienne, you may remember, he suffered a Lis Frank injury that was back in August 2020. Peterson says he's full go. In fact, I think at the end of last season, he said he was ready to go, but they just didn't want to risk it. Not worth it. They were not in any type of situation for playoffs or anything like that, so he kind of just stayed healthy. So he should be healthy this season. Now, Robinson tore his Achilles in late December. That's a different situation. 9 to 12 months recovery there. So it's possible we don't see him for quite a while.
Yeah, I mean, he easily could be out until December.
Right.
And which is pretty much almost the whole fantasy season.
I am excited to see Travis Etienne, though.
Yes.
I covered him in college, and Trevor Lawrence as well. But I covered both of them, and Travis Etienne can be a beast.
Yes, and I think it's interesting his pass catching ability.
Right. I was just
throws another kind of wrinkle in the offense. Also getting Ingram, so it's another good pass catcher there. Lawrence has plenty of options to throw the ball.
Yes.
They're not elite options.
No.
But they're all okay.
Yeah, I mean, Christian Kirk, his receiving grade was ranked 42nd out of 89 receivers, so they paid him a lot of money.
They way overpaid him, I think.
50 plus targets in 2021. So he ranked 42nd out of 89 receivers there, and he has been going as wide receiver 49 or 43 in Underdog Fantasy. Do you see that as low, high? How do you view that? Because he's going to be the number one.
And with best ball being you don't have to play him. It's just if he has a big week.
That's a good point.
He comes in. I do like it. Kirk can get open. He can get deep. So I kind of like the value, especially on a team where, I would expect Lawrence to take another step with Peterson. So I think there's a little value there.
Right.
I like it.
Next up were the tight ends here. And interesting, Evan Ingram comes in. He's projected as tight end 20. He did deal with some calf injuries. He also dealt with Jason Garrett as his offensive coordinator with the Giants. So
he dealt with the Giants.
Was limited by the clapper there. And Doug Peterson, remember, he has overseen some big seasons. Travis Kelce, Zach Ertz. So right now, Ingram is around ADP tight end 24 in Underdog Fantasy. I kind of like this one a little bit.
I do too, especially as tight end 24. You're looking at that at the very end of a best ball draft for Underdog. So I totally will take a flyer there, especially on teams where you're maybe going 3 tight ends. I think there's a lot of upside there.
Now let's take a look at the futures market for the Jacksonville Jaguars. Obviously, some pretty long odds here.
I mean, we can really probably just skip the Super Bowl.
Skip to the maybe the win total. Are you thinking maybe they got a shot at a division?
I do not believe they have a shot at the division.
6.5 is what their win total is. Yes. What do you think about it? Over under?
I said over here, but. Yeah, I got to stay with over. I think with Peterson and Lawrence is going to make another step forward.
I do.
So, I agree. We're going over.
Yeah.
I think this might be the only one we agree on, though.
Okay, that's a tease ahead. We do have some other props to look at. Trevor Lawrence, total passing yards on FanDuel Sportsbook is at essentially 3,800.5. But last season he did 36.41. total passing yards. Would you go over or under?
I love the over on that.
Yeah, same. Yeah. I mean, I thought last season, you can only get better, right? From last season. And got Christian Kirk now, whose receiving yards prop here set at 800.5. And last season he did 982. What are you thinking for this one?
Now that was with Kyler, so it is a little bit different, but I would still go over here.
Yeah, I agree as well.
I would not be surprised if he was a 1,000-yard receiver.
Yes, especially with Trevor Lawrence. He's got a cannon, you guys. All right, now let's get to the Houston Texans, who finished last season 4-13. All right, they showed David Culley the door after a 4-13 debut as head coach. And so it's now Lovie Smith's job. He spent 2021 as the defensive coordinator after serving 5 seasons as the head coach at Illinois. He only went 17-39 overall at Illinois. Failed to finish at or above 500 even once. I know that's not exciting a lot of Texans fans, but just got to keep it to the facts here.
Yeah.
Pep Hamilton's your OC. And that's a good thing. He helped develop Andrew Luck and Justin Herbert, so that could bode well. Mm-hmm. And when he worked under Smith at the Bears, they actually ended up top 15 in passing attempts, so could be good for fantasy as well. Now, it's not the same quarterback. Of course, Deshaun Watson to the Browns. Not that he didn't even play last season.
Yeah.
But, so he's out of the picture. Of course, it's going to be Davis Mills. Now, in the draft, they drafted second-round Alabama wide receiver John Mechie and Florida running back Dameon Pierce, 4th round there. So, talking about Mills, though, what do you see from Mr. Davis Mills?
I like Mills.
Mm-hmm.
Again, he's another guy I would expect another little step forward, but he was good last season. He had a couple spectacular games. And I could see him winning a couple people $1 million this year.
No way.
Yeah, he almost did last year, I think, a couple times in DFS, and I could see it happen again.
So taking a look at some of his stats to Tyler's points, his QB rating was 24th, yards per attempt 31st. So maybe not as bad as I thought when I kind of looked at some of the numbers for him.
And he did have a better passer rating than Trevor Lawrence.
There you go. And the offense that he ran was bad.
It was.
It was really bad. Pass blocking, 23rd. Receiving, 22nd. Rushing, 32nd. And somehow Mills surpassed 300 yards on 4 separate occasions last season. Now listen to this. That's more than Jalen Hurts, Mac Jones, Ryan Tannehill, among others, and helped him post, as you were saying, 4 separate top 12 fantasy finishes. And that beat out quarterbacks that were drafted higher, like Daniel Jones, Tua Tagovailoa, Trevor Lawrence, and Zach Wilson. So that shocked me.
Yeah, and he has Cooks coming back. They drafted another receiver, so he has a little more help in, pass catching options. So I don't mind him. I don't mind him.
We'll see.
Look, in a friend's 12-team league, am I drafting him? Absolutely not. But in a best ball, could I take a couple flyers on him? Yeah.
Sure. Running back, Dameon Pierce, RB50 is what he's projected at. Marlon Mack, about RB65. Rex Burkhead, RB70. But this is a team that finished with the single worst offense in terms of rushing and run blocking. The Texans running backs ranked 31st in rushing yards, despite getting the league's 13th most carries. Do you think that gets any better?
No, probably not. I think they're gonna use a committee again. They did pay Burkhead though, so
yeah,
kind of interesting.
He did help some people in the fantasy playoffs with a PPR RB3 finish in week 16, which is kind of wild.
And that made him get paid.
That's probably what it was.
Yep.
But that marked the only time all season a Texans running back finished better than 20th in a single week. So kind of an anomaly. But in the playoffs, that helped you in fantasy. Yeah. Talking about the wide receivers, you mentioned Brandon Cooks. He comes in projected at wide receiver 29. You got the Alabama kid, John Mechie, wide receiver 63. Nico Collins, Chris Conley. Now, Brandon Cooks has been top 20 wide receiver in 6 of 8 seasons. The only 2 he hasn't has been rookie season and one with Jared Goff. He's played on 4 different teams. So this is a guy who can throw up some fantasy numbers for you.
Yeah, and I think at 29, he's a great value. I would absolutely be trying to get him. And in some of those best ball tournaments, at the end of the draft, I'd probably try and swoop Mills too.
Okay. Mechie will not really be a factor. He suffered a torn ACL in the SEC championship game, so I don't see him, after Dr. Chow came in and talked about the process of coming back from ACL. It does vary depending on the player, but I mean, for a fantasy perspective, not someone you.
Nico Collins did have some good games last season, though, and it'll be interesting to watch him a little bit. He could help a little bit, and Chris Conley's all right.
And tight ends, you got Brevin Jordan, who posted some pretty elite marks in college. However, never played more than 60% of the offense's snaps in a single game.
Yeah, I would expect that to change a little bit, especially with tight end position. It can be a little bit hard for rookie tight ends to kind of step in and really make their mark in the first season or 2.
Sure.
So I definitely expect him to take a little bit jump forward as he's a little more accustomed to the NFL game.
Yeah. NFL futures odds for the Texans. They have the longest odds to the Super Bowl. And the worst odds to win this division. Win total at 4.5. Over or under?
I'm going over.
You're going over.
Over
4.5.
Yes. They had 4 last year, and I think that they are going to be a little bit better with the new coaching staff and Mills taking another little step forward.
When I ran through the schedule, I just could not see 5 wins on that schedule for them.
I mean, I could see them winning at least one versus Jacksonville.
Okay.
And then the Titans are such a wild card this year. I don't think that they can beat the Texans, but I think there could be good games there, especially at home. And the Colts, I don't think are that much better than last year.
Oh, we're going to have words
Yes,
later.
we are.
And that's,
that's why I threw it in there.
Now, their strength of schedule is 19th, so not super tough by any means.
Yeah.
But I just, when I was going through the schedule, I just could not pick out 5 winnable games for them.
It will be tough for them to go over, but I think they can do it.
We shall see.
Yeah.
Some other props. David Mills, total passing touchdowns, 20.5. Are you going over or under this, given that he had 16 last season?
I think the 16 was only in 13 games. And with that, I will say over.
Over.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going over. I heard all those stats about how he was better than all those other or all those other quarterbacks, and I was like, yeah, I think maybe we are underestimating Mr. Mills.
And we'll see what Pep Hamilton's got.
Exactly. Passing yards, 34.50.5. Last season, 2,664. You going over or under?
I got to go over on that, too.
I'm also going to go over. I think, especially with that rushing game, as awful as it was last season, I think they're going to be throwing the ball.
The rushing game could be a little bit better this year, but I agree still, though, that they're going to have to throw the ball. They're going to be down on games, and the only way to kind of stay in the game is him throwing.
Just chucking it all over the place. Let's go
Just
to the
Brandon
Indianapolis Colts. They finished last season 9-8. Of course, Frank Reich will be back in his 5th season. Offensive coordinator Marcus Bradley's 2nd year. Although remember, that Reich is the guy who calls the plays in this offense. And the big storyline, Matt Ryan traded to the Colts in return for a 2022 third-round pick. And he was actually the 13th highest graded passer in 2021. Did you know that? I mean, Falcons fans might know it. They seem to.
Did you know his passer rating was lower than Carson Wentz?
I did not. However, he recorded granted, he didn't have very many receivers. He had no Julio, Calvin Ridley, no.
I mean, he doesn't have much now.
Well, we'll talk about that. Ryan recorded a passing grade of 80 or higher in all but 2 of his first 11 seasons in the league, but he mentioned it. He did finish below 76 in 2 of the last 3. And so this last 3-year stretch does include 3 of his 4 lowest marks in yards per attempt over the last decade. So you're absolutely right. He hasn't put up good numbers recently. So last season finished QB 19 in fantasy. No Julio Jones. They're without Calvin Ridley. The Falcons struggled mightily. Running backs, we got Jonathan Taylor. So this offense is predicated on JT.
100%.
And he was the best running back in the league in 2021. Most rushing yards. Yeah, that margin was over 500 yards between him and the next guy.
He's a beast running the ball.
Nobody forced more total missed tackles as a rusher, while his 106 first downs as a rusher were 41 more than any other running back. Such a beast. And his total, listen to this stat, 12,072 yards after contact, or 1,272 yards after contact was more than any other back in the league could attest to having total. That's wild.
Yeah, he also had the fastest run of the year. So, dude's got wheels.
He's got some wheels. However, no running back has repeated as the overall fantasy #1 running back since Priest Holmes in 2002 and 2003.
Now, a lot of that is due to injury, too.
True.
CMC gets hurt. AP got hurt after a good season. So, if he stays healthy, I would say he has a good shot at it.
And then we've got Nyheim Hines, who's one of the league's most efficient running backs when lined up as a wide receiver, or as a true receiver. So, and Reich noted this offseason that Hines should have a role more similar to 2020 when it was Rivers as opposed to 2021 with Wentz. And Frank Reich said, if I was a fantasy owner, I'd consider drafting Nyheim.
Yeah, that's coach speak. Don't listen to that too much.
He doesn't know about fantasy.
Well, no, I'm not saying that he doesn't know about fantasy. I'm sure he does.
He's talking up his
But
guys?
he's talking up his guys, yeah.
All right. Now, the big question I have for you in terms of Jonathan Taylor is, do you take him #1 overall in your fantasy football draft?
I do.
Yes.
I take him over CMC.
Yeah, I agree. Look, we agree on something.
I know. Not everything, though.
Yeah, their Colts O-line ranks 12th. Carolina's ranks 31st. And we'll just see what I still think Christian McCaffrey is going to be a beast, though, this year.
Oh, absolutely. I agree.
Wide receiver, we got Michael Pittman. Wide receiver 13, Alec Pierce. Wide receiver 64, Paris Campbell. Wide receiver 75. And Pittman, only 24's sophomore season receiving grade was 18th out of 91 last season. Pittman was one of just 11 receivers with at least 25% and 30% of their team's targets and air yards. What do you see from him?
I do like Pittman. He is absolutely their #1. Ryan has targeted #1s in the past. The one, I have a big question, though, with Matt Ryan, though. He's always struggled without Julio. And I don't think Pittman can take the Julio-type role.
Well, you don't think he's a candidate that a lot of people are throwing around as a potential big breakout?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, third-year wide receivers are always kind of touted as potential breakouts. So I get it, and he is a very good receiver. I had a ton of him last year. I like him as a player.
Currently ADP wide receiver 13 in Underdog fantasy.
My worry is I think that is, you said 18 for Underdog?
13.
13. Yeah. So my worry is 13, I think, is pretty close to a ceiling.
Okay.
Like, I don't know if he is because
I don't think
he can go top 8.
You also think that Wentz was a better quarterback than Ryan.
I don't think he was better. The passer rating was better.
Okay.
But my thought on Ryan is that he is willing to take more chances. He throws more interceptions, and I don't think that's going to help the Colts as a whole, whereas Wentz is a little bit better protecting the ball.
I just think Matt Ryan coming over from the Falcons, where he got kind of...
Even the Colts don't value him that much. It was a third-round pick.
Well, I think he's got a lot left to prove, and
He
we will
could.
see.
And he's been a good quarterback. He's been a Super Bowl quarterback, Super Bowl losing quarterback. But
so it's a situation where this guy has been in the league a while, and that football IQ is something that
it is
sometimes not tangible.
I think 28-3 is still haunting him.
It would for me.
Yep.
Tight end Mo Ali Cox and Jelani Woods, tight end 35 there. Now Woods, this was an interesting stat. So he was drafted 3rd round, 73rd overall. And at the combine, listen to this beast of an athlete we've got here. Woods posted a 9.97 relative athletic score out of a possible 10. And that ranks 4th out of 941 tight ends since 1987. When I read that, I was like,
that is wild.
That
Yeah.
kind of...
Just to go back, though, tight ends can have a tough time in their first year.
Good point. And Reich likes to feature multiple tight ends.
Mo Ali Cox is a beast, too.
Yeah.
Gigantor. Guy's huge.
Let's talk about the Colts futures odds. They actually have the 12th best odds for a Super Bowl title. A lot of people are believing in Matty Ice. To win the conference, 6th best odds. To win the division, they are the favorites, minus 115. Win total, 9.5. Are you going over or under?
Is this one going to break your heart?
I mean, I got no skin in this game. You
So
know my team's the Jets.
I
so.
would not bet this. I think the line is decent, but if I'm picking one, I am going under.
Right.
Again, like I said, I don't think that Ryan is that much of a step up from Wentz at this point in his career, and that because he doesn't protect the ball and the way they play, where they're running and defense, I don't know if it's going to help that team that much.
I am taking over on this particular one. I do think Matt Ryan is a nice improvement.
Sports books agree with you.
And
it is minus
not
160.
to mention the defense is pretty awesome as well.
Defense is great.
So I think as a whole, this team has the ability to put things together. Sometimes you just need a few changes, like, a few moves here and there. Look at the Rams. Made some moves, and what do you know? Everything comes together. Taking a look at some other props here. Matt Ryan.
Did you just compare the Colts,
the
Super Bowl winning Rams? Can we? I got to put you on blast for that one.
Really compare Matt Stafford to Matt Ryan. Nonetheless. Matt Ryan touchdowns, 25.5. Are we doing over or under? Last season, remember, he
had 20 last season. What did Carson Wentz have last season? Let's take a gander here. Carson Wentz, 27. Yeah, I'll go over.
Yeah, I agree. I think even with the Falcons last season, I don't think he had a lot of stellar wide receivers.
Yeah.
So I think that gets better, even though they are going to be run heavy with Jonathan Taylor, which actually could help Matt Ryan take the pressure off a little bit. So.
Also, when I said passer rating earlier, I actually meant QBR for Wentz and Ryan, not passer rating. So just qualify that.
Hey. Okay. Jonathan Taylor, rush yards, 1350.5.
You gotta take.
You gotta take the over.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, he
barring
had 18,
injury.
11 last season.
Barring injury, I'd be shocked if he wasn't over.
Rush touchdowns, 12.5. He had 18 last season. Over.
Yeah, I'll go over on that.
We need a hammer out here so we can hammer the overs. Most regular season rush yards, do you think it goes to Mr. Jonathan Taylor? Plus 500. He is the favorite. for that and most regular season rush touchdowns. He's also the favorite there.
I'm going to say no and no.
Okay. Are you going for somebody else in this
In
division?
the division.
Okay.
Yep.
Offensive Player of the Year favorite at plus 1,000. And then Michael Pittman Jr. receiving yards is 1025 and a half.
I'll go over there too.
Yeah. 1082 is what he had last season. So I think he's going to take a leap forward as well. Tennessee Titans, 12-5. Mm-hmm. Mike Vrabel back for his 5th season. You got the same offensive coordinator in Todd Downing. And, of course, the big news for the Titans was A.J. Brown traded to the Eagles to get Arkansas wide receiver Treylon Burks. They also got Bobby Trees, Mr. Robert Woods. Quarterback Ryan Tannehill's back. And last season, QB 12. He ranked 3rd in passing grade, 7th in passer rating, and tied for 6th in yards per attempt. Do you think Tannehill's a little underrated as a quarterback?
I think Tannehill is fine.
Okay.
I think he is a good NFL quarterback, but it stops there.
Listen to this stat. 18 rushing touchdowns since 2019, ranked 3rd among all quarterbacks behind only Josh Allen and Kyler Murray. Yes, Ryan Tannehill has more trips to the end zone as a rusher than Lamar Jackson over the past 3 seasons.
Yeah, Tannehill can run that ball.
That's pretty good for fantasy.
It is.
He's going QB 24 and ADP in Underdog. Running back. There he is, Derrick Henry, RB3. King Henry has been a top 4 running back in fantasy the last 3 years. Now, in 2021, he suffered a broken bone in week 8 and missed the rest of the regular season. And now he kind of struggled in the playoffs in that game against the Bengals in the divisional round. You know, probably not fully healthy. But what do you expect from the King Henry in this season?
I like Henry, and I would bet him to have the most rushing yards over JT.
All right. So more improvement, even though.
Yeah, and I mean, Dr. Chow has said that he's healthy, so I gotta agree with that. Also, the time off at the end of the season is probably good for him. Rest those legs a little bit, get ready for this year. And he did play at the end of season last year. So, I mean, he's going to be full go.
All right. So. Let's take a look at the wide receivers. Treylon Burks coming in at wide receiver 33. Robert Woods, wide receiver 51 now. This is an offense that had
we had
A.J.
Julio
Brown.
and A.J. Brown, yeah.
So, and they didn't necessarily produce super high fantasy outputs by any means.
I mean, Brown was solid. I like Robert Woods, and at wide receiver 51, I think that is way too low.
Yeah.
This is a guy that was like a borderline wide receiver 1, wide receiver 2 a couple years ago, and him going like firmly as a wide receiver 4 is just way too late.
Yeah.
Or even 5, actually.
But this is such a run-heavy.
It is a run-heavy team, but they can't run that much. They can't run 70% of the time.
Tight end Austin Hooper signed a deal after being released by the Browns, but this is an offense that regularly rotated 3 tight ends during any given game last season, and the Titans are tied for just 16th in total targets to tight ends since 2019, and they rank 29th in total routes. So basically, not a team that really puts a lot of emphasis on the tight end position. Probably why they have Austin Hooper there.
Totally.
Futures odds. We've got the 15th best odds to win the Super Bowl. To win the conference, they've got the 9th best. And to win the division, they are number 2 at plus 160. Win total set at 9.5. What are you thinking for some of these odds? This is your team.
I'm going over. And I would say to win the division.
Okay. I am actually definitely taking the under in this one. I kind of just see the Colts as, I think they're putting it together.
I get it, but Titans defense is decent. Henry's a beast. Tannehill's a solid quarterback. I think with Burks and Woods, their wide receiver room is decent. Like it is a step back from what it was last year, but I think they will be all right at wideout.
Taking a look at their strength of schedule, it's 24th. So to your point, it wouldn't be that tough in terms of the strength of schedule. But I'm going to take the under there. Give me the under. Other props here. We've got Tannehill passing touchdowns at 22.5. Last season, he had 21. Are you going over or under?
I think I'll stay with under here.
Me too.
Yeah.
Losing Brown, probably.
Yeah. And that's the thing is that
well.
Brown is so good at breaking that big play that could take a little bit from Tannehill's touchdown total.
Derrick Henry, rushing yards, 1,350 last season, 937. But I did bring up the 2020 numbers as well because he didn't play all last season, and that was 2,027. So I'm taking the over on that one for sure. Hammering it. Rushing touchdowns, 12.5. Also over. Last season was 10. That was his lowest touchdown output since 2017. He had 17 back in 2020. We're going over. Most regular season rushing yards. This is Tyler's pick, plus 600.
I would take that one.
And most season rushing yards, plus 600. That too?
Yeah.
Comeback player of the year favorite. You think he's going to get that accolade as well?
I think he could. However,
Baker Mayfield's in the equation.
Baker is, Mariota's in it.
CMC.
I guess Deshaun Watson could be.
Yeah, no one's given him that award.
Yeah, I know. I mean, it depends on what he does when he does come back and how many games he plays, how the Browns do. But I would be doubtful that award would go to him after his troubles. But
nonetheless,
if he has the season that he's capable of, it also could be too good to not give it to him.
Well, Henry has good odds, though. He's the favorite.
If they win into the division, he has a very good chance of getting that.
The one thing I do worry about, though, and he's not old by any means, but I do feel like the window of performance for running backs, it seems to be getting smaller and smaller.
Yes, and he's heavily worked, but he is a beast. He's huge.
We've also got Treylon Burks to talk about because offensive rookie of the year plus 1,000. That's the third best odds. So could be an interesting one to keep an eye on, especially he could see a lot of targets his way in that offense. So, all right, Titans. You're taking Titans. I'm going Colts.
Titans, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. So
need a little side bet on this.
Definitely going to have a side bet. And if the Colts win, you definitely got to do a TikTok dance. For sure.
Gosh. No.
Absolutely.
No. TikTok, really?
Yes. And
not the one you sent me the other day. That's for sure.
That was a funny one. Love my TikTok dances. So you just got to set the terms. It's the Titans.
I'll think about it a little bit.
All right.
If you're making me do a TikTok dance, it's got to be something pretty good.
All right. Well, keep listening to the Pre-Snap podcast for what we end up deciding on.
Yes.
We'll let you know. And right now, just make sure to lock in your subscription to LineStar. Just want to remind you of that. The price does go up at the end of the month. Okay, let me start that out. All right. Make sure to sign up for LineStar right now, just $19.99. The price does go up for football season to $29.99 per month. Still a great deal, but we want you guys to save $10 a month. So lock it in now, linestarapp.com. And also check out the link below for the Underdog Best Ball Tournament. You got to be in it to win it. Millions of dollars on the line could be yours. And all you got to do is do a draft. And then during the season, you don't have to change anything. You just sit back,
and relax,
root
and
on
just
all
make
your
some
players.
money.
Yeah, exactly. And so if you are enjoying our content, be sure to hit like and subscribe and sign up for some notifications so that you can always know when we are coming out with some cool videos, which we will be leading up to football season. So keep it here, tuned to the Pre-Snap podcast. We'll see you guys next time.
Have a good one, guys. Bye.